The year is 1955, and here we are on the first of our family vacations together. We're at Mount Vernon, the home of George Washington, our first president. I'm 4 years old, and Jay is 2 years old. We're looking out over the Potomac River. Now, as you can see, we had quite a line to get into Mount Vernon. Here we saw some Negro farm workers plowing a field in North Carolina. They're using horse-drawn plows. It looks almost like the Amish country that we left behind. One of the workers was only a boy, so Dad went out to talk to him. Even when we go to Florida today, we see the South of the Border Motel. In those days, it really seemed to be a palatial type of place. Santee State Park in South Carolina. We were there pretty late one evening. And now we're at the famous Dixie Jungle. Mom was just hoping that peacock would open up its tail feathers for her. And sure enough it didn't. Or did. Fort Frederica was the fort of James Oglethorpe, the founder of the Georgia colony. The construction of this fort's kind of unusual. They used seashells in the mortar. And lo and behold, we made it to Florida. It seemed that there were many of these tourist trap type of places along the highway. As you can see, they have a thorough selection of reptiles. As I recall the story, this bird kept saying, "This way out, this way out." Silver Springs early in the morning, and it was really cold. In fact, we got the first glass-bottom boats out. After it got a bit lighter out, we were able to see quite a few fish. As I recall, this was more of a submarine type of boat in which you could look out portholes to see the fish. And here we're taking the Jungle Cruise. This was a place at which they had filmed some Tarzan movies. And you can see the monkeys coming along the bank of the creek in order to catch the food that was being tossed to them. Prince of Peace Chapel. Here's Dad with his 2 boys. That bucking bronco that they put me on. But look at the docile creature they put Jay on. We got out to the Gulf Coast Notice how well tanned Harry Wanger is compared to the rest of us. An amphibious plane flew by and caught our attention. Poor Jay just hated to walk barefooted in the sand. The seashells in the sand hurt his feet. Minnesota is the winter home of Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey Circus. And these are the wild burros that might bite you or kick you. I always thought it was neat seeing how this bear seemed to just fall over and suddenly become a hippo. And now we're at Sarasota Jungle. Jay seemed to be pretty worn out here. And alligator, black swans, flamingos, bird of paradise, we found a little hideout. Always get the inspection sticker or part of the car on her pictures. And now we're at the Sunken Gardens. Apparently we were there pretty late in the day. Like this flower. Would you believe it? They made us sit with these two models. Hey, he's my brother. Dad also got his turn with the models. Look how far away he sat. A baby alligator. This is the Cypress Garden water ski show. The pyramid is more or less the trademark of this show. The great masterpiece is a mosaic of Leonardo da Vinci's Last Supper. And here we see a Seminole Indian canoe. Clinch is a fort at which I believe they said Davy Crockett once served. Notice the gator skin on the wall. I'm pretty well worn out, but it looks like Jay still has some life. And here we're at the Bach Tower. Famous Carillion tower. They use the bells at the top to play music. And now we're at the Black Hills Passion Play. This is a special place as far as I'm concerned because I think one of my earliest memories is seeing the animals grazing outside of the amphitheater here. Here's the Garden Tomb. This is Pilate's judgment area. The main stage. The meeting place of the Jewish Sanhedrin. The home of Mary, Martha, and Lazarus, and the scene of the triumphal entry into Jerusalem. As you can see, Jay was a real swinger back then. And here we have on our official Florida shirts. And we later got some hats so we wouldn't have our suntans on our noses. Of course, being in Florida back in those days meant that you saw a lot of orange trees. Here's a sugar plantation. And now we're at Parrot Jungle. I believe those are cockatoos. Notice all the goldfish. The toucan. There are about a half dozen macaws there. Notice that the flamingos have black under their wings. Little did this trainer realize that he was only warming the birds and the audience up for the real star of the show. And there he is, the Birdman of Parrot Jungle. Now we're at Monkey Jungle. Here they're pretending to be United States Marines. Now we're Indians. Doesn't even have to look. Jay and I thought those monkeys just had to get out of that car and let us have a chance to ride it. And now for the celebrities. Liberace, Ringo Starr in his formative years, I guess, and Tarzan. At Monkey Jungle, we walked through the cage and the monkeys were outside of the cage roaming around. Notice the washcloth on the dash. That's a coconut tree. And here's the Key West Naval Base. Notice the 3 dirigibles. Everglades National Park. And here we got to see Mom's friend, the snake. There's a raccoon in under those branches. This mechanism is used for harvesting pineapples. There are conveyor belts between those truck-like machines. Now we're at the Seminole Indian Reservation. There you can see 4 of the Seminole Indians. This little girl was really cute. Africa, USA. Perhaps there are some scenes of the animals here which will remind Sherry and Jay of the safaris that they took in Kenya. The wildebeest is supposed to be one of the ugliest animals in the world. And here we got to see the only geyser in the state of Florida. There it is. Now we're along the Atlantic coast. At Marine Studios, we got to see the porpoises perform. Porpoise is another name for the dolphin. Here they're jumping for food in the main tank. Now we're seeing the porpoise show. Here the porpoise is pulling a dog in a little boat. The porpoise is putting out a fire. And now he looks like Jay shooting baskets. Washington is the oldest city in the United States, and here we got to see the old jail. The gallows. Here a mom is punishing a person probably for drunkenness. Whenever we went to a restaurant, Jay's standard order was hot dog and Coca-Cola. Now we made really good time getting home. There was a hurricane coming up the coast behind us. And here we are back at Grandma and Grandpa Wanger's.